Hello. Allow me a minute just to delete the previously setup live because there was a mistake there on my part. If I'm able even to delete it, I'm not sure. Eleazar, brother. Okay, I remember you. I remember the Nick Diaz profile photo, right? Yes, I think I'm correct. You contacted me about, excuse me, about the workshop. I remember you. I have to. Please confirm if that's the case. If I'm not mistaken, I have to put you in my notes and get back to you because I haven't had a chance so far. Yes, brother. Let me just put you in my notes. Okay. You're going here on the priority list. Thank you, everyone, for joining. The topic has been selected by you, and that's the call to adventure as psychological reality. Maybe the title seems kind of academic, boring. At least the second part of it is psychological reality. So I'll make sure that the topic itself is not dry, is not academic. It's not my intention here to demonstrate my knowledge of psychology or to engage in psychology or philosophy as an intellectual exercise. But let me try once again to cancel, delete, or do something with the previously set up live. I'm not the most competent person when it comes to IT stuff, and believe it or not, for me, even using YouTube Studio as a creator is IT stuff. So I'll try to do something about it. And okay, yeah, that's it. Hello. Redneck. Love your videos. Your IG page is very helpful. Thank you for that. Cool nickname. Marianne is here. Hello. Human. And Eleazar. Email. Just a second. No, actually, I think I noticed you in the DMs. Just a second. Maybe not. Yeah, brother, stick around, and we'll sort it out. But let's see, are we good to go for our topic of the day? Actually, for me, it's early morning. The sun is still not up. It feels good to have to wake up for this type of occasion. Can you drop me in the chat before we begin? That's something that I like to do, to ask where is everyone tuning in from, so that we can get a sense of our international community. States. Slovenia, USA, Riga. I don't know if Riga, if I'm pronouncing correctly, and it feels kind of strange that I have to address you in English, but I am originally from Montenegro, Crna Gora. So yeah, once still neighbors, once closer neighbors, part of the same country, not too long ago. And greetings for beautiful Slovenia. USA. And greetings, of course, for the beautiful USA. I'm hoping to be able to visit in near future. I'm not sure what near future exactly is, but somewhat near future. Okay, friends, and thank you for answering. It can be right. It can be an intrusive question to ask where you're from or currently at. So thank you to those who answered. I guess we can begin. So the call to adventure as psychological reality. Once again, the second part as psychological reality can be maybe confusing, intimidating. It can seem like I'm about to deliver some kind of academic lecture. I'm not trying to do that. I will explain shortly what I mean by that. Call to adventure can be viewed from a very specific perspective, or rather in a very specific context. So in order for us to start, I want to ask those of you who are listening and who are able to answer, have you ever heard of the concept of the hero's journey and the call to adventure as one of the first stages of the hero's journey? It would be useful to get a sense if you're familiar with the concept. Okay. Well, I mean, it's useful for me because I'm generally curious about about you guys. When I say guys, I mean ladies and gentlemen. But either way, we will mention when we mention hero journey, we will have to mention it as we talk about this. Well, I don't want to talk about the call to adventure from the hero journey, at least not only about call to adventure as such. Rather, I want to present the call to adventure in a more broader sense, where it can be identified in different psychological ideas, so you can hold your idea of the call to adventure from the hero journey, but let's say we are going to expand that idea for it to become more real, more relevant. So I will start with one of the most important books I've read in my life, and that's The Farther Reaches of Human Nature by Abraham Maslow. And at the very beginning of the book, there is a section called Neurosis as a failure of personal growth. So right from the start, in this extremely powerful book, Maslow is trying to revise psychology to bring sort of a reformation to psychology as a practice, as an institution, as a field of study, but a field of study that shouldn't be about study just as an intellectual practice, but a study of the human soul, human psyche, with the intention of nurturing the human soul and the human psyche. So the section, once again, neurosis as failure of personal growth. Already at that point, Maslow, with declaring his disagreements with mainstream psychology, is setting up the stage for his claim, and he's not alone in this claim, that most of what we consider mental health issues, nowadays we call them mental health issues, mental health problems, that specific term wasn't so prevalent in Maslow's time. So I'm using now our terminology to bring it closer to you. So he is setting up his argument that most of what we consider mental health issues, excuse me, first of all, are mostly result of our orientation towards life, or our orientation towards our life, the journey of our life, our orientation towards ourselves and people around us. So he's almost completely dismissing the biological aspect of mental health issues. I'm not now doing that. And for YouTube, if the higher ups in YouTube are listening to this, I'm not offering medical advice. I'm not arguing against anyone, consulting with their professional when it comes to their problems. This is, educational. So he's first of all arguing that what we consider mental health issues is almost never biological. Again, I'm just delivering his argument, which I agree with to a large extent. But he's also saying we have to stop looking at these, again, mental health issues, mental health problems as exclusively negative occurrences. This one is even maybe more controversial. Then we get to neurosis as failure of personal growth, where Maslow tries to say that that's one of the things that he's trying to say, that neurosis, it's anxiety, depression, panic disorders, obsessive disorders, so on and so forth, can be, as he says, sort of clumsy movement towards psychological, emotional, spiritual health. But why neurosis is failure of personal growth? Well, it is clumsy movement towards growth because we are being pointed to the fact that we haven't been either actively moving towards growth, we haven't been attempting to move towards growth. And he sets up the idea where refusal to pursue your potential as a human being results in neurosis. Why would anyone refuse to pursue their potential? Well, Maslow sets up it's not a theory. He coins the phrase the Jonah complex for our fear of growth, and even he calls it our fear of greatness. He uses the term the Jonah complex. Jonah, inspired by the biblical character of Jonah. So I'm not expert when it comes to Bible, but I know that Jonah is a biblical character who is called by God to deliver a certain prophecy, or in since since he's called by God, it's not a prophecy, it's direct news, so to say. But yeah, he's called to be a prophet, to deliver news from the God, to be a prophet, to deliver this important prophecy. He refuses to do so, and he's swallowed by a sea monster, where he undergoes an inner transformation inside the belly of the beast, is rescued and goes on to fulfill his mission, his destiny, his calling. Well, Maslow uses the character of Jonah to, once again, to coin the term Jonah complex, to describe our refusal of engaging in the pursuit of our growth, or refusing to answer our call, refusing to honor our talents, refusing to explore our full potential, so on and so forth. And what's amazing about Maslow is he's very understanding of human nature, and he says it's natural not to want to engage or to be scared of engaging in the pursuit of your growth. It's natural to be scared to answer your calling. It's natural to be scared because we have this idea, again, modern idea, social media motivation style of understanding human potential, where potential, growth, greatness, success, it's all great, it's all positive. It's perfectly natural to be scared of your own potential. Why? Because it involves facing the unknown, facing rejection, failure, isolation, ridicule. Because it, maybe more than anything, requires you to change, to quite literally engage in the destruction of your world as it is right now, your life as it is right now, yourself as you are right now. That's why Rollo May, another great humanistic / existential psychologist, says that although becoming who you are is a act of creation, of self-creation, it is also a destructive act. That's why it's natural to be afraid. That's why it's natural to be afraid of your own potential. That's why it's natural to be afraid to engage in the journey of your growth, of your potential, of your calling. So once again, Maslow uses the term the Jonah complex. Jonah complex is our fear of our own greatness. Well, we can already start drawing a parallel between this and another concept in psychology that we mentioned previously, and we can start explaining what this has to do with the title, with the topic. And please excuse me, I'm battling a cold. So, Jonah, like ourselves, because Jonah is here to represent our journey and what we usually do, Jonah refuses to go on his mission, refuses to answer his call to adventure. What call to adventure? Now let's bring in the hero journey concept. Well, the mythologist Joseph Campbell came up with two terms, monomyth and the hero journey. So it's a pattern that he noticed across different civilizations, different cultures, different moments in history, periods of history, where every myth, every legend follows that same pattern. That same pattern is called the monomyth. The structure of the monomyth is the hero journey. The monomyth and hero journey are the same, so you can use both terms. Hero journey is more popular. Let's somewhat briefly mention why this is relevant. Why should we care about a hero journey? Why should we care about myths and legends if we are talking about our life and our own personal growth? Well, myths and legends are eternal truths. What does that mean? How can myth of Hercules be a truth? Well, there is a scientific, objective, rational truth, and there is this kind of mythological, symbolic, eternal truth. Why? Because why is it eternal? Because any scientifically verifiable truth can change tomorrow. And that has happened so many times in history where something that is considered a scientific truth does change. So tomorrow we can find out something new presented to us by science, something new about the nature of our physical world. But what do myths and legends do? They tell stories. What these stories do? They deliver messages. They transfer wisdom from one generation to another. Well, why is it eternal truth? Because there is no scientific study that can disprove the core message of a myth. Doesn't matter if that myth has first time appeared 100 or 1000 years ago. And usually all myths tell a couple of same stories, just with different characters and different details. But let's say if Hercules at somewhere at the beginning of his story, he has a choice between an easy and glamorous life. Yeah, that's maybe I'm simplifying it, but Hercules at the beginning of his story, or pretty early on in his story, has a choice between an easy life of comfort and pleasure and an extremely difficult life of glory and honor. He chooses the latter. We can maybe extract a message that a meaningful life is difficult and full of challenges. That by pursuing a life of external pleasure, you don't get meaning. Well, that's why it's eternal truth. There is no scientific study. There is nothing that can be done in a laboratory tomorrow or 100 years of now that can disprove that message. That's why a myth is eternal truth. Now, to go back to what we were talking about, this is why myths are relevant. This is why it's relevant what Joseph Campbell noticed, the pattern of the monomyth or the hero journey. It's relevant because that pattern that's found in stories is the same pattern that we can notice in the psychological reality of a human being. Because what these stories are doing are reflecting our own lives. Most importantly, our own psychological development. So, because a story and its structure is used to reflect something that is happening inside all of us, and just like the hero journey of Jonah or Hercules or Frodo from Lord of the Rings or Goku from Dragon Ball, they are different, in details, but they follow the same pattern. Just like that's true for all of them, it's true for you. So you are following the same pattern as Jonah and again Frodo, Harry Potter, and Goku. Or let's throw in someone. Let's throw in another one to mix it up. Yeah, King Arthur or whatever. To be honest, I'm trying to the girl from Spirited Away. Let's bring some. Let's bring some female characters. The girl, what's the name? I'm forgetting the name, from Spirited Away. That's the female character that always comes to my mind. One of my favorite. So, back to the point. Those stories and their pattern are reflecting our own Alice in Wonderland. Wow, I don't know how did I miss that one. That is maybe the most obvious. This is thank you for this. Alice from Alice in Wonderland. That's a great one. Like one of the most obvious examples of the hero journey. Like she literally goes, because hero journey has these stages, and the hero goes, even as Joseph Campbell says, goes to the underworld. But this underworld doesn't have to literally be the underworld. It's just the unknown. But Alice literally goes into the underworld. This is amazing. Thank you. Okay, now I have an example. I really owe you. I owe you one, because I'm always looking for a female female character. That's a good example of the hero journey. Thank you for this. So, again, these stories matter, and this pattern matters because it's reflective of our own psychological reality or realities and our own psychological development. And our psychological development, if we view psychology as the science of the psyche and the soul, then our psychological development is more than a self-improvement game of how to be more likable or disciplined. It's a matter of becoming who you are or failing to do so. So maybe, or hopefully it wasn't too chaotic of a outline of what the hero journey is and why it matters, what the hero's journey is and why it matters. One of the initial stages of the hero's journey, as it's laid out, is the call to adventure, or forgive me, it's the first stage of the hero's journey, the call to adventure. So every hero receives initially the call to adventure. And what's interesting and hopefully will make you feel more understood and less alone is the fact that almost every hero initially refuses the call. Not every single one, but almost every hero initially refuses the call. What's famous, I believe, or one of the famous ones, let's say in modern culture, in recent history, is Luke Skywalker. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but as I understand, he initially refuses the call. Harry Potter, he initially refuses the call. Frodo, a big one. Frodo initially refuses the call to adventure. He has to be persuaded by Gandalf to go on the journey. And let's go back. We have Jonah. Jonah, the ultimate example of someone who, or let's say one of the first examples of someone who refuses their call to adventure. So hopefully now we are drawing a parallel between two different ideas from also different disciplines. Maslow is dealing with humanistic psychology. Joseph Campbell is a mythologist, but also interested in philosophy and psychology somewhat. And we have Carl Jung that Joseph Campbell was inspired by and was interacting with his work while working on the idea of the hero's journey. So we have this blending of ideas. And now, kind of to make the full circle, Joseph Campbell inspired by Carl Jung, interacting with his work, studying his work while developing the idea of the hero journey. But at the same time, another connection to be made is that Carl Jung, just like Maslow, considers that failing to pursue your unique potential leads to neurosis. He just explains it in a different way. Not even explains it in a different way, just uses different language, different terms. So now we have full circle of these individuals who are all in their own corners. Carl Jung developing his own branch of psychology, his own branch of psychology. Maslow trying to bring a sort of a reformation to mainstream psychology. Joseph Campbell dealing with mythology and drawing inspiration from philosophy and psychology. And we see this pattern of, if you refuse to pursue your potential, you're headed towards neurosis that is psychological, maybe even spiritual. Disturbance, discomfort, conflict, suffering. And we see with the hero journey that this is a pattern that can be traced, again, across cultures and across time. Well, how can we make the hero journey more real, more relevant, feel more human? Because it feels like, Frodo or Jonah are refusing their call to adventure, but they are quite literally called on a great adventure. They quite literally receive the call. They know what they need to do. They know that there is a great purpose waiting for them. They're afraid to engage in it. And we said it's natural to be afraid of pursuing your potential greatness, because of everything that it entails. But they have a clear picture in front of them. I just want to stop for a moment and say we have here, if Achilles, for example, refused the call to adventure, he would have lived a long yet very insignificant life. Yes, great point. Excuse me, just one sip of coffee. Well, how can we make this more human? Because once again, it seems like they're clear, and they have a clear idea. They receive a clear calling. How does this relate to us? Well, I want to bring in another idea from Abraham Maslow that hopefully can make this very real, even if you don't know what your purpose is. I want to introduce you to Abraham Maslow's idea of growth choice versus fear choice. Maybe some of you have seen me write about it. I've written about it multiple times. And I love talking about it and writing about it, repeating, because it's one of the most important ideas that I've encountered in my life. Not in the sense that it's groundbreaking. It's not like Nietzsche, when you read something that you understand it, you resonate with it, but you cannot comprehend how did someone arrive at this conclusion. It's not that type of idea. It's a less glamorous idea, but one of the most important for me, because it changed the way I live my life. It changed it fundamentally. Growth choice versus fear choice. Well, Maslow says at every point in our life, every single day, multiple times per day, you are faced with a choice. And you either make a growth choice or a fear choice. Let's start with the fear choice. The fear choice is movement towards safety, security, towards the familiar, towards the known. Refusing to engage in something that you are afraid of, that's why it's the fear choice. Refusing to engage in your fear, and once again, stay in the safety and comfort of your current reality. The growth choice, as the name implies, is the choice of engaging in fear, because growth is on the other side. Seems like somewhat simple idea, especially nowadays. Nowadays, with all the motivation talk, everyone talks about engaging in your fear, so it's kind of basic. However, Maslow didn't write this as part of something that he hoped to be a motivational bestseller. He was writing this as part of a book that was even largely intended for his fellow educators, for his fellow professors, psychologists, therapists, and general population that was interested in his work. But he presents it once again as part of our psychological reality. What makes this idea important is the fact that the difference between the growth choice and the fear choice isn't in the externalities. It's about your inner context that completely changes the game of this idea. Do what you're afraid to do, engage in doing difficult things, all of that talk. That is valid talk, but not presented in a particularly nuanced way. In a seemingly same situation, growth choice for you and me can be the opposite one. and the fear choice can be the opposite one. So here is the most basic example that I like to give. For most people living a lifestyle of that involves physically dangerous behavior is scary. For most people, someone being engaged in extreme sports, that's scary. That would seem like someone who is engaging and confronting their fears regularly. However, we can easily imagine a person who is engaging in adventurous, risky, physically dangerous behavior, let's say, doing extreme sports maybe, because they are running away from confronting their insecurities, their trauma, confronting people in their life. We can easily imagine a person for whom going skydiving is easier than having a difficult conversation with a loved one. Once again, one of the most basic examples, just to explain how contextual this is, growth choice versus fear choice. There is a person for whom the growth choice would be to live what we consider a conventional life, because they have been running away their whole life from commitment, from responsibility, from stability. So that's why growth choice or fear choice is contextual. Maybe for an extremely extroverted person, the growth choice would be not to raise their hand when asked in a public setting who is going to deliver the speech. Maybe for the extremely extroverted person, the growth choice would be to not to raise their hand and to sit and learn how to listen, because they are afraid of not being heard, afraid of not using the chance to express themselves. Because all of us, once again, we are tempted or we are inclined to think that the growth choice is always and for everyone to deliver a speech, to deliver a public speech, to engage in public speaking. I'm trying to offer these examples to point out to the fact that it's contextual. Why is it so important to explain that it's contextual? Because it's your journey, and you have to acknowledge that you must recognize your chances to make the growth choice. And they are not determined, once again, by externalities and by common standards and expectations. They only have to do with what's inside. So you have to be honest with yourself. Honest with yourself when it comes to what the growth choice or the fear choice is for you. But now let's see how does this relate to the call to adventure, and why did I say this can make the concept of the call to adventure more real. Well, for Maslow, as we said, we face multiple of these choices. We are at this intersection between fear choice and growth choice multiple times per day, every single day in our lives. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's big. And he says, that make the growth choice 10 times per day and you have moved 10 steps forward on the journey of self-actualization. It's not waiting for a grand moment. It's not like, okay, today I'm not going to engage in that difficult conversation, and I'm not going to tell the truth, and I'm not going to answer that call, and I'm not going to use that opportunity. So I'm going to continue making small fear choices, but I'm waiting for the big moment to make the growth choice. It doesn't go like that. And I think all of us know that it doesn't go like that. All of us are aware, at least on a deep level, that you have to make those small growth choices day in and day out to set yourself up for that big growth choice, which is, career change, big opportunity, big creative opportunity, professional opportunity, big love opportunity, big shift in who you are. That grand moment, that growth, that big growth choice comes, and you are able to make it more confidently by making all of those small growth choices. Well, for Maslow, this is actually the path of personal growth. For Maslow, this is how you set yourself up for answering what? Answering your call to adventure. So for Maslow, although Jonah complex, although the story of Jonah is a relevant one to paint the picture of our psychological reality and what happens when we refuse to grow, he also doesn't paint the picture of us being like Jonah, fictional characters who have no backstory and who make no choices, but our story starts with the grand, with the grand call. We are living characters with far more context, and we cannot wait for the grand call to adventure. We have to take every single day and every single opportunity for the growth choice that we face in every single day as its own call to adventure. This is where all of this was leading up to. That although the hero's journey, your hero's journey, can be a great specific moment or period of your life, there is also like a mini adventure, a mini hero journey for you to embark on every single day or almost every single day by making that growth choice. And sometimes actually the small or a small growth choice can lead to a big adventure. I'm sure at least some of you here have some point in life engaged in a conversation with a stranger, and that ended up being a significant friendship, significant romantic relationship. Was that if it's not an adventure that started with a small growth choice of talking to someone you don't know? So, to bring it couple of steps back, if the point of our personal growth isn't one grand moment, one grand decision, but it's making constantly, every time we have the chance, these growth choices, no matter how small we are, if that's the more realistic representation of our personal growth journey, and if our personal growth journey is about answering our call to adventure, and we put those two images and see how they overlap, then we can see that every growth choice, every intersection where we are faced with growth choice versus fear choice is also our moment of the call to adventure. So no matter how insignificant it might seem at the moment, once again, answering that call, or you being the one who calls that person, raising your hand to engage in a certain project, crossing the street to encounter a person that you would usually avoid because you're uncomfortable talking to them, shy. You see, we continuously these social settings, because that's what most of us are afraid of. But anyway, I would like to hear some examples from you. What do you perceive as growth choice versus fear choice? But every single time we face this decision between the growth choice and the fear choice, it is our own private call to adventure. sometimes call to a mini adventure, but still a step towards exploring and fulfilling our potential. And sometimes it's a call to a major, major adventure. We just don't perceive it that way because the reality of our daily life is usually unglamorous. And as you know, as Kierkegaard said, life can be only understood backwards. So we cannot yet perceive how this small growth choice can take us on a grand adventure. So I would leave you with, once again, a quote by Maslow, or I will try to quote him, but maybe it will be more of paraphrasing. On the note of choosing growth versus fear and embarking on your adventure and answering the call to adventure, not waiting for the grand moment, but answering the moments in your daily life, he says the difference between the diminished and the unleashed individual is difference between fear and courage. I'm asking you to choose courage, to choose growth. Courage, on that note, courage is also a choice, not a biological trait. So I'm asking you to choose courage, to choose growth, and maybe because still we are still kind of fresh in this new year, new me, and that type of mindset, because we are still relatively early in the new year. I'm asking you maybe to take 2025 as your year of adventure. Answer every, or as many, let's be more realistic, answer as many calls to adventure you receive on a daily level. Take every chance of making the growth choice, take it as a potential call to adventure. That's what I have for you, friends. Almost a full hour. I don't know if this was too much, considering the fact that it's a live stream and I want to interact with you, but hopefully there was something interesting in this delivery. So yeah, let me know how much of this made sense. If you have any questions, comments, I'm also open, of course, for us to continue discussion on broader topics and things that are not necessarily related to the talk that I delivered. But let's see if there is anything, either a question or a comment related to the topic that I discussed with you, or that I delivered a talk that I'm hoping we have some sort of a discussion. Okay, I want to say this. Thank you. Singular. All of language is conveying a narrative, telling a story, carrying on a myth. The story is inherent to how mankind perceives the world. Couldn't agree more. And that's the same person who gave me an example of Alice in Wonderland. Really, thank you for that one. I don't know how I missed it. Thank you, Eleazar. I don't know how I missed Alice in Wonderland as one of the most obvious examples of the hero journey. Thank you for that. I have a question for all of you. Can you, and this is maybe also a good chance to see if I need to explain growth choice and fear choice better, but can you remember or identify a recent growth choice or fear choice that you have made? So either an option of identifying a small one, recent one, or identifying a moment in your life where you made, either a big growth choice or a big fear choice that influenced the trajectory of your life. So it would be amazing if someone can point out something specific, but if it's too private, you can even just say, yeah, I get the idea, and I can notice a fear or growth choice in my past. Let's see. After making a choice, how would you recommend looking back and reflecting on that choice for either scenario? I have a question for you. Are we talking about how would you recommend looking back and reflecting on that choice to determine whether it was a fear choice or growth choice, or how do you recommend knowing that it was either fear choice or growth choice, reflecting on it to kind of incorporate it into the story of your life? Because let me tell you this, I think there is not much or maybe any reflection needed. Let's say there is not much reflection needed for us to try to figure out if it was the fear choice or growth choice. And I really subscribe to this idea that humans have a great capacity for self-awareness, much greater than they admit to themselves. So I subscribe to the idea that almost every single time when you are making the choice, you are aware if it's a growth choice or a fear choice. You can try to mask that awareness, but the awareness is there. So I think there is not much reflection needed to figure out if it was fear choice or the growth choice. When it comes to reflecting and what next, well, reflecting and realizing it was growth choice, I think it's another proof of your commitment to your growth. And growth, once again, growth is not just about, I'm going to achieve my goals and I'm going to be successful. Growth is your psychological, spiritual growth, you taking care of your psyche, you engaging life more fully, you confronting life. Short rant there on what growth means. But I want to say, if you identify you've made the growth choice, so once again, you are stacking proofs of your commitment to becoming who you can be. It's something to use for guidance. What allowed me to make that growth choice? But if you identify that you made the fear choice, there is no reason to dwell on it, especially if it's not a major one that completely change the trajectory of your life. But even if you did, there is no reason to dwell, because the whole point, as we said, is that you face these choices every single day of your life. So even if you made a major fear choice, still make 100 extremely small growth choices. So once again, the good thing is that as long as we live, there are choices to be made. So there is no reason to despair after identifying that you have made the fear choice. Mariana here saying the choice to leave a relationship, big. The choice to not drink last night despite everyone else drinking, small, but maybe not too small. That's a big growth choice. In my books, going out and everyone else drinking around you, I mean, not trying to be funny, genuinely, I think for most people it's a big thing. I don't have a drinking problem, but I go on auto when others are drinking. So it's easy small to have this level of awareness in the moment for something that isn't really a problem for me. You saw my natural reaction even before reading the message. the second message. You saw my natural reaction to reading that you made the choice of not drinking. And I'm here not taking any kind of moral position saying to you or anyone else you shouldn't drink. I think it's genuinely especially in our culture, like alcohol, right? Alcohol is the only psychoactive substance that is encouraged, and where you're weird and boring if you don't drink. I mean, I'm not saying that's always the case and in every social setting, but you get my point. So for me, that's a definitely not a small growth choice. And the choice to leave a relationship, I just I have to stop for a moment to say we have to acknowledge that for humans, like relationships, even though when we talk about, I see when people talk about personal growth, philosophical topics, we talk about psychology in this more holistic sense, trying to over intellectualize it and to avoid the reality that at the end of the day, relationships, are the greatest adventures and challenges and accomplishments of our life. So almost any topic that we discuss, I think we should reflect on our relationships. And when it comes to growth choice and fear choice, I think one of the biggest fear choices that people make in their life is staying in a relationship that isn't serving them and isn't serving the other person, that is keeping both people small individuals, is keeping both people stuck. Maybe sometimes it's not about both people. Sometimes it's about one person being mistreated. But one of the biggest fear choices that people make is staying in relationships that aren't for them. So I think for anyone who gathers the courage to, after developing a bond, and no matter how much we realize someone isn't for us, there is that sense of, again, comfort of the known and familiar. So it's not comfort like I'm good and cozy here. Comfort of I know what to expect. So it takes a lot of courage. I just wanted to reflect on that. I will address everyone. I will just, to continue the interaction with Marianne, is maybe on drinking, saying on reflection, I can see it was small in terms of impact, but major at the same time, because I broke a pattern, which gives me a desire to do this more. I think that's it. I think that's because if you put it in any other setting, if again, let's put it in the setting of communication with other people. If I'm trying to draw a parallel between your example of drinking and this. If I'm an introvert, not to the point of being paralyzed when talking to others, but still, palms sweaty and being inclined to avoid communication with unknown individuals, if I accept someone's invitation to deliver a talk in their online community, so talking in front of, here I'm talking in front of strangers, but kind of more comfortable setting than being somewhere sort of official, not sort of, but somewhere official, official online setting. it's a small choice. A small choice in the sense of I've done it before. I know I will not collapse, but like you say here, major because breaking a pattern, because maybe I have a pattern of declining opportunities. Don't feel the most comfortable. So maybe not the greatest peril, but I'm just trying to say I wanted to provide an example that's not exactly the same, but to say that small in terms of impact of that particular situation, but big in a sense, like you said, of breaking a pattern. So I think that makes it once again a great one. E.A. Matelli. I don't know if it's correct. How do you deal with intrusive and negative thoughts that prevent your development and growth? That's a big one, right? That's why you see me writing about Morita therapy. Although I've kind of started dealing with those things in a similar way before coming across Morita therapy. For me, becoming an action oriented rather than feelings and thoughts oriented person really changed my life. And I will tell you what I mean by that. I fully acknowledge that there are intrusive thoughts, that negative thoughts and intrusive thoughts that are paralyzing. I have experienced what it's like having intrusive thoughts on a level of being afraid that I will go insane. Being scared to get out of bed and start the day, because I know that there are so many things in the day that can trigger these intrusive thoughts again on a level of me thinking that maybe I will have a breakdown and go insane. So I understand that level of intrusive thoughts, and I don't want to disregard that potential of people having negative intrusive thoughts that are almost literally paralyzing. But there is always some action to be taken. There is always something that can be done, if it's not a full-on psychosis. If we are not talking about full-on psychosis, if we are talking about negative thoughts and intrusive thoughts that are not preventing one from physically moving and physically completing certain tasks, then I think it's about building up once again the confidence, or for the first time ever, actually, building up the confidence in your ability to act not just despite how you're feeling, but also despite these thoughts. That's where I think the popularity of Stoicism kind of hurt people. And yeah, it's not the most appropriate or the most correct representation of Stoicism or explanation of Stoicism, but some of it also comes from correct representation of Stoicism. And that's the idea of us having control over our minds. You can always, you can choose how you feel about something. Yeah, or oversimplification. You can choose, you cannot choose the externalities. Well, listen, you cannot also always choose the internal processes. I think that's a liberating idea. It's not just I cannot change what's happening inside, but I can order the inner world. No, you cannot. No, you cannot. I would like to see, with all respect that I have for the Stoics, I would like to see Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus talk with Carl Jung, maybe, or maybe Schopenhauer, or maybe Freud. I'm not mentioning Seneca because Seneca was the most flexible of the Stoics. So now I went on a side tangent there, but for the purpose of what you're talking about here, accepting that you don't have full control even over your own thoughts is a liberating idea, because once again, then you're starting to focus on action that you can take with the current capacity and start building up your confidence in your ability to take action appropriate action despite not just how you're feeling, but despite the thoughts on the, how to say, on a more simple level, that can mean deciding to create despite the imposter syndrome. We can identify that as negative. I don't know if I would, negative intrusive thoughts. I have that personally after 5 years of writing. I told that to someone yesterday. After 5 years of writing, still, sometimes I sit down and I just have such a clear voice in my head say, what are you doing? Like, who are you to write these things and expect that people want to listen to what you have to say? What are you doing with your life? Like, what is this? What is it? I still have that 5 years later. Does that count as negative or intrusive? I don't know, but for me, that's like, okay, that's surface level negative or intrusive thoughts. But again, you build up that confidence to recognize and say, okay, learn to laugh at yourself. Learn to laugh at yourself and recognize, okay, I'm not supposed to always be in control of these inner processes. Can I physically continue writing despite this idea that came so strongly? Like, what are you doing? This isn't worth it. Stop doing this. Like, start living your life in a more serious way. Do something real with your life. Can I physically continue writing? Yes, I can, because this is not it's not full on psychosis where I'm detached from reality. It's just, quote unquote, just negative or intrusive thoughts. So can I physically continue? Yes. But you know why I can physically continue? Because I had to do that 1,000 times. And sometimes it was to write one sentence in the face of imposter syndrome and insecurity. Sometimes it was to write 10 pages. So again, that's the surface level. We can be talking about the intrusive thoughts of, am I insane? And then saying, okay, let me brush my teeth. Can I physically brush my teeth? Can I go out on a walk? And can I force myself to list out all the things in my life that objectively I should be grateful for? My ability to breathe, that I was born, my ability to breathe, to walk, to look. I still see, I still hear, I can still touch, I can still smell, I can still taste. I have family. And this is not an example. That's something very personal. I've gone through that, saying, am I insane? I don't know. Maybe I'm. But let me let me try to take this day one step at a time. So I gave one of like surface level negative intrusive thoughts when it comes to maybe creative expression, and this what I would say on a bit deeper level intrusive thoughts. So hopefully that made some sense and was of some value. The fire that burns within. Beautiful username. Fear choice I have made recently is sticking with just consuming content instead of creating it. I'm trying to create art nearly every day so it can be my job. Wow, this is call to adventure. This is call to adventure. You have to, like, I don't know if you're still on the, because I'm not able to see who is on the stream and who isn't. The fire that burns within, you have to honor that username, the fire that burns within. And the fire keeps burning if you nurture it, and you nurture it by commitment. Commitment results in passion. I don't believe passion is just there on its own. I believe passion is that fire, and we nurture it with commitment, with showing up. So trying to create art nearly every day so it can be my job. You know what your call to adventure is, and why not every day? And by every day, I don't mean a finished piece of art every day, but why not a single line, at least a single line every day? Mongrel gremlin. Fear leading to a long period of stagnancy resulting in bitterness. One good thing about this stagnation, is that you can change it right now. Like right now, this moment, if you're listening, right now you can change that stagnation by identifying what is one small growth choice that you can make right now. I'm sure you can identify at least one. If you can, and if you're willing to share it, please do. Let's create a sense of accountability here by sharing. CJB, thanking me for the previous answer. Thank you for a great question. Human, I think there are maybe tens of opportunities for a growth choice daily. Do you recommend taking slow start, growth choice one by one, or going all in? Oh, this is I think the only way is actually to take them one by one, because I agree with you. We have tens of opportunities for a growth choice daily, and I think this is an amazing question you asked. I'm curious if you even know how brilliant this question is, because by presenting this idea of the growth choice and fear choice, a person can get into this trap of gamifying everything and viewing everything in terms of this, self-improvement. So laying out like, okay, these are all of the choices that I have, and how many growth choices am I going to make today, and becoming too focused on the concept rather than reality of life. So once again, this is extremely important question, because as much as I think there is value in us bringing this idea to awareness, as much as it has changed my life, and that's why I'm sharing it with you, I also think that kind of carrying this concept at all times and looking at at the scoreboard of our life at all times takes away the authenticity from it. Because are we then making the real growth choice? Amazing question. I think the only way is to take this idea, internalize it, take it seriously, but then go on with your life. Try to identify, to sense the fear choice and versus growth choice opportunity as it arises. Not necessarily to wake up every day and once again look at the scoreboard and say, let me stack up this number of growth choices today, one at a time. Khan saying, I just made such a choice an hour ago regarding relationships, but it was the fear choice. I still feel sad about it, but I will try to interpret it as a reminder as to what happens when you choose inaction. Maybe this is the growth choice. You noticing, admitting, acknowledging. Hello. I am DAV135. Ken saying, if I acted, I would have seen the result, whether positive or negative. But since I didn't act, I'm left with uncertainty, left wondering what could have been. I would prefer a conclusion over uncertainty. Uncertainty is, one of our greatest weaknesses or enemies. So I think everyone can relate to you. But once again, you say, I will try to interpret it as a reminder as to what happens when you choose inaction. This is a growth choice. Take the mistake that you have made, and this is not me saying that you've made a mistake. You are perceiving it, interpreting it as a mistake, holding yourself accountable. I think that's healthy, and the growth choice is in doing so. Growth choice is in you considering this idea and now writing here, I made a fear choice an hour ago. That takes guts, self-awareness, and you know what? Admitting self-awareness, that takes guts, because self-awareness, we all have more of it than we are willing to admit. That's the thing. Humans have such a great capacity for sensing and recognizing what is going on inside, whether it's here or here. But if you admit the fact that you can recognize, then you take on responsibility. Okay, I know what's going on, so then I probably know what the right course of action is, what the right choice is, what the right decision is. So that's why it's kind of convenient to say, I don't hear the inner voice. So the courage here is in admitting admitting to the level of self-awareness that you have. Mongrel Gremlin saying a possible growth choice I've been putting off is not exercising daily to heal a weakened muscle injury, or because deep down I'm not 100% sure it's possible to be fixed. In general, if something is not guaranteed, I find that I'm most likely not going to pursue it, but it keeps nagging me. Maybe sort of a big growth choice isn't just the injury, but addressing now what you said. In general, if something is not guaranteed, I find that I'm most likely not going to pursue it, but it keeps nagging me. Maybe the big growth choice, the big growth choice to make is addressing this and saying, let me try something where the outcome is uncertain. I'm not trying to present myself here as some kind of, great example or whatever, but I've talked on that workshop about for 5 years of my online presence, writing online. I spoke about this idea of making a deal with yourself to pursue something without expectation of any result. So when I started my Instagram page, I made a deal with myself of 1 year of writing and posting without expectation of any result. And I can tell you that results were pretty lousy after 1 year. Lousy, at least in terms of, metrics, numbers. But I figured out that I like it, so I kept going. I didn't keep going because of results. After 1 year, when it comes to results, I definitely could have stopped. It didn't look promising. Once again, I don't like to give myself as an example, like, look how amazing I am. Just sharing something when it comes to not being certain of the outcome. I think that's a cool adventure to go on, to do something without being certain, without being guaranteed the outcome. That's one hell of an adventure. I'm switching here between tea and coffee, trying to cure this cold. So also apologies for everyone hearing me so many times do this. Sorry. I don't like to do it, but I'm struggling with my throat. I've realized that if I really want to try or do something, I get stuck in my mind and I try to do it perfectly, so I don't do it at all. But starting with an already lost mentality, I've gone way further. Already lost mentality. Yeah, I mean, again, no expectations is difficult, especially in our achievement-oriented society. It's all about what you have to show. What can you show with your pursuit? But once again, I think it's for everyone out there, anything in your life that you can commit to without any expectation of the result, just you putting in the work, a great adventure. How do we, or how did you overcome social media dopamine addiction? The most relevant question for the modern human. I will address it. Let me just read what Human is saying. When I can't make the growth choice in one or two situations, I lose the momentum, which leads to more bad choices. Maybe I should accept reality that it is not possible to change everything in a day. You have the answer. You just gave the answer. This is why I love people getting a chance to talk, because usually it is this: you need chance to express yourself. Now, Human, I don't know who you are. I don't know a lot about you. I don't know anything about you, but just you having a chance to express yourself, you are arriving at insights, at conclusions. That's one of the greatest. Now I'm going on sort of a rant. That is one of the greatest insights, one of the most important insights that I've arrived at in my life, and it came last year from Sisyphus Society, my community, where this thing of people showing up and speaking, and I'm no genius. People trust me. People find some value in what I have to say, so I will try to offer advice whenever I can. But so often I see this situation where someone speaks, and by them expressing their situation, they arrive at the insight. This is that moment with Human. You arrived at the answer. You just needed this chance to express. You needed someone to sort of instigate this train of thought. You needed the environment to engage in thinking about this and then expressing it. Beautiful. I love this. Okay, let me now address Teddy is being. How do we, or how did you overcome social media dopamine addiction? Okay, that's a big one, and as I said, the most relevant question of our age. I'm certain of that. Okay, how did you? I have to acknowledge that when it comes to social media / dopamine addiction, digital addiction, it's about context. So there are people out there, heavily addicted, and it is, or it can be a real addiction. Excuse me. But I have to set up the stage and say it's not the same for everyone. So I'm going to be lying. I will be lying to you, or I would be lying to you if I said, yeah, use me as an example that's relevant to everyone, because to this day I'm fighting the temptation. I'm not fighting the addiction. I don't know if for me it was ever a full-on addiction, but I think every human being who is using technology, who is engaged in the digital world, is fighting that fight every single day, or is, if they're not fighting the fight every single day, then they're probably succumbing to all the temptations thrown their way. So how? Environmental design over willpower. That's the first principle. Environmental design over willpower. What does that mean? That means that as much as willpower is necessary in any change that we want to make in life, you cannot rely on it always. You cannot rely just on willpower. I always use the same example, so allow me to make that example again when it comes to environmental design versus willpower. I cannot have peanut butter in my home. Why? Because even though I'm considered a disciplined individual and I'm someone who can stick to a strictly regimented diet pretty well, and in so many other aspects of my life I'm sticking to the rules of the game that I set up for myself, peanut butter is my weakness. So in this case, environmental design versus willpower means I just will not have peanut butter in my home. Doesn't matter if there is a meal that, it would be good to have 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. It doesn't matter if it would be nice to once per week have peanut butter and jelly on some bread. It doesn't matter because I know I will be tempted to eat the whole jar in one sitting. And I've done that multiple times in my life. So rather than rather than trying to rely on my willpower, rather than expecting brainstorming, rather than expecting that, when the time comes, I will just eat 1 tablespoon. No. Environmental design is me not having peanut butter. Well, now let's acknowledge the will aspect of it, not the willpower, but the will aspect of it. I can still at 2 a.m. go outside, get changed, go outside, walk to the store, buy peanut butter, go back home and eat the whole jar. So I'm still physically capable of doing that. And maybe I've done it in the past. Maybe I've done it in the past and those are not my proudest moments. But I'm way less likely, all right? Like I'm way less likely to eat a whole jar of peanut butter if I have to go out and buy it rather than it being in my home. That's environmental design versus willpower. Now let's bring it back to social media / dopamine addiction. What is the environmental design that you can do? I would urge you to find starting with every free way of limiting your use of social media, of making it more difficult for you to use social media. One free way is, let's say, when you set your alarm, and I don't know what, I don't know the details of your struggle, so to say, but when you set your alarm, if you're setting it on your phone, okay, move the phone at the very least to the other side of the room so that you're forced to get up, so that you are at the very least not waking up with with the phone in your bed or in your hand and then tempted to start the day by scrolling in your bed. Because listen, for most people, if they remove usage of social media and quick dopamine from the first hour of their day and the last hour of their day, I'm not saying they've solved the issue, but they solved a good chunk of the issue. Yes, it's still possible to spend the rest of the day scrolling, even if you stick to this rule of no phone usage in first hour, but you're way less likely to. And the more you delay the usage of phone in the morning, the more stuff you can get done and then you can allow yourself, you can allow yourself to use social media later on. I mean, I'm tempted to go in so many different ways. One of the things that isn't free is Freedom app. Freedom app is not free. It's a website and app blocker. So, for example, when I wake up, that's not the case this morning because I want to be here with you guys, but maybe I'm going to block YouTube, Instagram, Gmail. Definitely, I don't want to check email in the morning, things of that sort. That's not free. I have, I don't want to engage in a lot of self-promotion here. I have a course that I made because all of my philosophy and psychology work led to precisely this, that everything that we talk about when it comes to our psyche and our psychological development has to be today viewed from the lens of us being modern human beings in a digital world. So all of that led to what you're asking is the philosophical and psychological issue of our age, how to handle all of this digital temptation and distraction. So I made a course, Attention Mastery. It's not free, just like the Freedom app is not free, and I'm actually inside the course recommending this app as one of the one of great tools and great ways to give yourself an advantage in this battle. So I don't want to now go like give a sales pitch for my course, but one of the things that I mentioned there is also how, when you understand how these things are, how actually social media is capturing your attention, how is managing to keep you engaged. One of the conclusions, so let me give you, one of the conclusions is you have to make your life more interesting, because we can talk all we want about social media being flooded with brain rot, as now it's called brain rot content. But the fact is that you start perceiving your life as less interesting than social media, even though it's not, for most people, they're not fully aware of it. But whatever is on the screen is more engaging because you're being offered an amplified version of reality. So even for people who genuinely live interesting lives, still it's tempting to scroll. But imagine if you are disengaged from your life, how much more likely you are to scroll. But then we could say, okay, but I'm disengaged from my life precisely because I scroll. So, what comes first, chicken or the egg? Where is the beginning of this problem? You being disengaged from life, or you scrolling and therefore becoming disengaged from life? I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters what comes first. So I'm asking now everyone listening, if you're listening and if you're trying to engage now in this philosophical, not debate, in this philosophical questioning of what comes first, is it social media preventing me from fully living, or is it me not fully living making me susceptible to social media temptations? It's an interesting question, but I'm not sure if we should spend a lot of time trying to answer that question. I think we should spend time trying to figure out, okay, what can I do to make my life more exciting, and acknowledging, this is not going to make me immune to social media. And let me tell you, Teddy, I'm hoping this will make you feel somewhat less alone in this. I've had now the fortune and the privilege to speak with a lot of people, and I've from 19-year-old students to 45-year-old successful people with successful careers and with families, and everyone today struggles with this. Everyone, again, to different extent, but everyone struggles with social media. And let me tell you another thing, because I said about this making your life more interesting. Again, I am beyond blessed. I cannot believe that I get to spend my life and my time reading and writing and having these conversations with you, and having, again, also this my community where multiple times per week I have long form conversations where people get to also teach me something, and I get to see people arrive at these insights on their own. Beyond blessed. I'm genuinely excited about my life. So I'm really engaged in my life. I think my life is really interesting and meaningful. But I'm still tempted. This is this is crazy how tempting this is. Anyone who says, it's just like suck it up, that's like, what are we talking about? No one, no human, no generation of humans has faced the temptation of this sort. No, like we are at the frontier of figuring out how to be human while having this in your hand. So maybe that's not the most optimistic thing to say, or not the most encouraging, but I'm hoping for you, Teddy, and anyone here listening, I'm hoping it makes you feel less alone, because it's not like, oh, I'm this weak person, I don't have enough self-discipline, that's why I'm scrolling. Maybe you should call yourself out for not being disciplined enough. I'm in support of sometimes kind of going hard on yourself to keep yourself accountable, but social media and digital overconsumption, let's call it overconsumption rather than addiction, overconsumption of social media and digital content in general is far from just a problem of weak will and lack of self-discipline. It's a great not even an obstacle, because it's not like we can jump over it or overcome it and then continue. It's not even an obstacle. It's a great existential dilemma that we are facing today. So I kind of went now on a philosophical side tangent to on a more practical level. If I could say two things, is environmental design. Think of all the ways that you can prevent yourself from engaging. Let me put it like this: prevent yourself from engaging in digital consumption when you feel like you shouldn't. I'm not saying now, throw away your phone. Think of all the ways that you can set up your environment, and maybe if I'm not sure about the free website blockers, how good they are. I would ask you to do some research, but there are always steps to take. One can take their phone and give it to their, whether it's a parent or roommate or partner, whoever you're living with, and say to them, here's my phone. For the next 2 hours, don't give it to me. Don't give it to me. It doesn't matter if I'm asking you to give it to me. I'm going there to study, read, work, write, or I want to spend quality time with you, whoever that person on the other side is. Don't give me my phone. It can be that. So there are, again, many ways to go about environmental design. Yeah, this was a bit of a long one. Thank you, Teddy. Thank you, Teddy. Thank you for listening, and for everyone out there, 10 seconds promo. I do have a course called Attention Mastery. Attention Mastery, that maybe apologies, this is a tea that still has the leaves inside. Attention Mastery that people can find, not can, people will help people with this issue. Okay, we have more questions, but I cannot skip Srini's book reviews. Okay, I want to also check your channel, book reviews, right? Okay, I don't want to see zero videos on book reviews. Please, I have to open 17 videos. Respect. Mhm. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm tempted when I see someone has a name for their channel. I'm tempted to see. Lust is a great monster that I'm fighting in my life. I try, and it always wins. It is like there are two voices inside me, and the bad voice, oh, excuse me, and the bad voice takes over completely when I overcome, when maybe when I'm overcome with lust. The good voice is just shut down and feeble at that point of time. Comes back later and says, "Try to warn you." Good way to describe this inner conflict. Try to warn you. Lust. Deadly sin, right? I'm not. I'm not trying here to engage in moralism, but yeah, they were onto something with those deadly sins. I believe they were onto something. I've I know what it's like to battle with lust, and I think every human knows on some level what it's like to battle with lust, and also to be beaten by it. I'm genuinely thinking, because there is no easy answer here, and you didn't even pose a question. I acknowledge that. Thank you for sharing, but lust is a one hell of an opponent. I think I will not provide any concrete advice here, but I think this what you described, and these are some of the things that some of the inner conflicts that have made me realize how much we are not in control of ourselves, and how much we have to come to terms with the fact that we are hardly ever in full control of ourselves, and that self-awareness, this uh, inner dialogue that we are having, awareness of the inner dialogue, trying to extract something valuable from the inner dialogue, is sometimes the most that we can do. So, I'm not trying to resolve you or anyone else of responsibility. You don't have unlimited, how do I put it, unlimited credit for your good voice to say, try to warn you, try to warn you. At some point, the good voice is going to say, what are you doing? Should I even warn you anymore? Or have you made a decision to completely ignore me? If I can put it that way. Yeah, again, not trying to resolve you of any responsibility, of any, or of responsibility in general, but yeah, a reminder that we are not in full control of ourselves. Oh, okay. Maybe I am, or okay, I am DAV135YT. Amazing perspective. I understand that it's on the previous topic of digital consumption addiction. Really, really amazing perspective. Do you think this struggle with digital content is or will become a part of the human condition, or what we consider human? You speak my language. You speak my language. I think we're already there. It's part of the human condition, and that's why I'm saying my study of psychology, but psychology once again is care for the human soul, existential psychology, humanistic psychology, and my study of philosophy have led me here. When I started writing, I never wanted to write about dopamine detox and all of those things. I've gone through that journey. First time I did dopamine detox was David. Okay. My name is pronounced David, by the way. As I said, first time I did dopamine detox, but it didn't even have that name, was 2000 and I believe 15 or 16. So it's been a while. So the self-improvement game, in the sense of let me level myself up, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I've done it, before even I had social media. I've done the daily cold showers for 2 years in a row, also without social media, without anything. I don't want to go on a side tangent here. I'm trying to say that I was never interested in writing about these things that are now part of the self-improvement game, digital detox being one of them. I wanted to engage in existential questions. So I arrived at talking about and devoting most of my time now to actually trying to think, research about this through, once again, study of philosophy and psychology. So I think you are spot on. It's about the human condition. It's about the human condition. Rollo May, in multiple of his books, lays out this the human predicament, modern human predicament, but in the time of his writing, modern human predicament is in the 70s. Yeah, I believe it was 70s. So he's laying out different dilemmas that humans have faced in recent history. For him, recent history. For us, it's still recent history. And what has contributed to, he says man, but it's actually the individual. He's not talking about males. The individual to lose their sense of self. So, for example, in his age, he's talking a lot about the nuclear threat. He's talking about the American culture as it was at that point in time. Well, threat for us, for our sense of self, for why most people don't have the sense of personal significance. Personal significance not in a narcissistic way, but personal significance in a very healthy way. Personal significance of I am a being in this world who has some agency, who is capable of acting in the world and relating to the world in a meaningful way. That kind of personal significance. Why does the person today, why does the average individual today doesn't have that sense of personal significance? Why does the average human today isn't even an individual? Let's put it like that. Why the average human isn't an individual? Why it's just it's for a reason that we have now this term NPC. It's usually used by people who shouldn't be talking about it. It's usually used by people who themselves could be NPCs very well. But a term is a relevant term. Again, our modern way of saying that a person isn't a true person doesn't have a self. Kierkegaard wrote the whole point for him is to become a self, to become a person, to become an individual. He said that I don't know if they granted him his wish, but he said that on his tombstone he wanted just to write, or just to say, an individual. Why am I saying all of this? Well, just put it now in the context of our age. All of those questions are still relevant. It's just why, what's one of the main contributors for us why the person isn't an individual, why the person doesn't have a sense of self. Because how convenient, where is it? How convenient and easy to lose your sense of self here. How convenient and how easy. I could go on, and this is maybe let's set that up as a topic. Okay. I have to address the other topic that was offered for this call, also existentialist view of anxiety. And this is all connected. This is all connected. I mean, none of these topics that I bring up can be separated one from another. Existentialist view of anxiety again includes answering your call to adventure and viewing anxiety as a potential adventure. So everything is connected. I'm kind of cheating when I'm offering different topics, because at the end of the day we will talk about all of them. Yeah, so what I want to say, let's for my friend, I don't know if you are David or David. I don't know if you are David or David, but this topic we have to bring it up. Not bring it up. We have to talk about it. I mean, that's something. I think this year is going to be probably me writing about it a lot of in long form, and it's not just about my writing. Really, now, genuinely, it's not about writing. It's about hopefully having more individuals in this world. So I can say, who cares if I'm going to write another 3 essays, or if I manage to write a book. I mean, I want to do it, but the whole point is, can we make a difference? And I'm saying, can we make a difference, not can I make a difference. I just happen to be a guy who persisted in doing this for long enough. Thank you, Marianne. But generally, I happen to be the guy who persisted in doing this for long enough. This thing, talking about things that we all care, talking about them for long enough, consistently online, to build an audience. I am one of you. It just happens that I'm the one who managed for now to build an audience. But it's what we can do, not what I can do. Not trying to step away from responsibility by any means. I understand it. By all of you putting your trust in me and giving me your time and attention, there is some responsibility that I have to fulfill, and I genuinely live with full awareness of that responsibility. So I'm not trying to step away from it. But when it comes to the impact that we can make, when it comes to how much what we do matters, it's what we can do. So I can learn so much from so many of you here, from all of you here, not so many, from all of you here. I can learn something. And when it comes to this existential question of the human condition in the digital age, human condition in the digital age is something that we have to explore together, and you have to be the individual, every single one of you. But we also cannot have this defeatist view. And also, I'm not now trying to engage in political conversation, but so now I'm about to say conservative. I'm not talking about your political orientation in your country and who you vote for. I mean conservative in the sense of we cannot, in this, when it comes to this issue, we cannot look back, because there is no going back. There is no going back. We cannot, in that sense, we cannot have the conservative mindset of glorifying the past. And I think when it comes to this digital human predicament, we are all tempted to glorify the past. So we are all conservative in some way here. But we cannot focus too much on the past and glorify the past too much. We are now humans. We are a new generation of humans whose lives are partially in the digital world. I certainly don't want to be uploaded to the cloud one day. If I get to choose, I don't want to exist in a cloud. I don't want my mind or whatever, to be uploaded. But we already are. Look at what we are doing here. So our intellectual life is largely online. Why am I saying all of this? So we cannot glorify the past too much. We have to become resilient human beings in the sense of being capable of navigating this confusing, ever-changing world. And David, that same responsibility comes with the proof of us being here, being impacted and interested in these topics and the things you have to say as well. Thank you for that. Now I want to read you on this note. I will try quickly to find on the note of hopefully something encouraging for the new human being. Can I find it? Maslow talks in the Further Reaches of Human Nature so much about the necessity of the new human being. Okay, here it is. Please allow me to read a bit of a longer quote. Another reason for my interest in art education, creativeness, psychological health, etc., is that I have a very strong feeling of a change of pace in history. It seems to me that we are at a point in history unlike anything that has ever been before. Life moves far more rapidly now than it ever did before. Think, for instance, of the huge acceleration in the rate of growth of facts, of knowledge, of techniques, of inventions, of advances in technology. So let's put it in our context. Think of the huge acceleration in the rate of growth of all of these things that Maslow listed out, and also rapid, huge acceleration in the rate of growth of stimuli thrown your way through digital devices. It seems very obvious to me that this requires a change in our attitude toward the human being and toward his or her relationship to the world. To put it bluntly, we need a different kind of human being. I feel I must take far more seriously today than I did 20 years ago the Heraclitus, the Whitehead, the Bergson kind of emphasis on the world as a flux, a movement, a process, not a static thing. Heraclitus famously said, how the man never steps in the same river twice. It's not the same man and it's not the same river. Heraclitus is the philosopher, the first philosopher of becoming. The existence is in constant motion, constant flux. If this is so, and it is obviously, if this is so, and it is obviously much more so than it was in the 1900 or even in the 1930? If this is so, then we need a different kind of human being to be able to live in a world which changes perpetually, which doesn't stand still. This is from the 70s. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure that his message wasn't heard enough. I can guarantee you that. As soon as he became philosophical, he was pretty much ignored by the mainstream psychological community. That's why you have Maslow, just you have the hierarchy of needs in your studies of psychology. As soon as he became philosophical and started talking about things that cannot be quantified, things that cannot be, standardized, he was basically disregarded by again, psychology's institution. We need a new kind of human being, he said in the 70s. I'm not sure. Again, I'm sure he wasn't. Excuse me. I'm sure his message wasn't acknowledged, but I want to say I'm not sure we got the new kind of human being, because I want to leave some space that there has been a development. Maybe not enough, but I don't want to present it like we haven't moved an inch from when he was writing this. I will continue reading a bit more, and okay, unbelievable. It feels like it was written in 2025. Exactly. David, what's your big five personality score? I will address that. I'm not fully sure, but I will address that. If you would give me the honor and the privilege to keep reading a bit more to you. This is Farther Reaches of Human Nature by Abraham Maslow. Again, if you would humor me, I would read a bit more. I may go so far as to say, I may go so far as to say, for the educational enterprise, what's the use of teaching facts? Facts become obsolete so darn fast. What's the use of teaching techniques? The techniques become obsolete so fast. Even the engineering schools are torn by this realization. MIT, for instance, no longer teaches engineering only as the acquisition of a series of skills, because practically all the skills that the professors of engineering learned when they were in school have now become obsolete. It's no use today learning to make buggy whips. To be honest, I don't know what a buggy whip is. What some professors have done at MIT, I understand, is to give up teaching of the tried and true methods of the past in favor of trying to create a new kind of human being who is comfortable with change, who enjoys change, who is able to improvise, who is able to face with confidence, strength, and courage a situation of which he or she has absolutely no forewarning. I don't know if MIT continued being such a revolutionary institution as Maslow presented it here, because I have no awareness of how things work there. But it seems like they were promising, at least at that point. And here is Maslow already him presenting the idea of that we need a new kind of human being. Already that is a very Nietzschean idea. But here is Maslow going full on Ubermensch style. But let's say that Maslow's Ubermensch would be a more kinder, empathetic human being than Nietzsche's Ubermensch. So I want to make a clear distinction. To come back to my title, What I'm talking about is the job of trying to make ourselves over into people who don't need to staticize the world, who don't need to freeze it and to make it stable, who don't need to do what their daddies did, who are able confidently to face tomorrow, not knowing what's going to come, not knowing what will happen, with confidence enough in ourselves that we will be able to improvise in that situation which has never existed before. This means a new type of human being, Heraclitean, you might call him. The society which can turn out such people will survive. The societies that cannot turn out such people will die. I want to say why this is full-on Nietzschean. Because this is Nietzsche's point of the death of God. People present, like he's celebrating the death of God. No, he isn't. First of all, although he's an active opponent of Christianity, he is saying that it will turn out being one of the greatest tragedies of humanity, the fact that God is dead. That's the foundation, the ground that religion provided to us. He is addressing Christianity because that's his background. The ground, the stability that true faith provided to people is lost. He does consider it as a tragic event, but Nietzsche is that type of thinker where he's considering that we are not going to now to turn back. We are not going to turn back. There is no time for weeping. We have to create something new. So it's not. I don't want to now to divert towards a talk on the death of God, but a lot of Nietzsche's philosophy is actually facing our modern. So Nietzsche announced the coming of the modernity of everything that we are experiencing. Nietzsche, so he was a prophet by all means. And big thing about Nietzsche, he has this insane, I would say, expectation or belief in human capacity to not need to turn away. So maybe Nietzsche goes too far in his belief that we can survive without any traditional values and fully create our own. But something that is important that we see in Maslow here also is human beings who don't need to staticize the world. So human beings who don't need to say, wait, the change of human history is at this moment too much for me or too much for us. Let us go back or let us stop. No, you're on this ride. You're on this ride. So again, Nietzsche was in this sense, this powerful thinker because he wanted us to embrace it. He knew he was writing, he knew he wasn't writing for his contemporaries. He wanted people to embrace the turbulent changes in the course of human history, because the last 200 years have been as turbulent as it gets. Like the Industrial Revolution completely changed the world, and now the digital revolution. So those two movements far out. I don't want to say far outweigh any other point in history in terms of change, but you can hardly beat Industrial Revolution and now digital revolution. Well, both Nietzsche and Maslow are saying we need people who do not freeze in the face of what's happening. We need people who don't say, I want to go back. There's no going back. That's why I mentioned previously conservative. Again, not conservative as in who you vote for. I don't want to engage in that conversation right now. Conservative in the sense of, we need to go back to old values. Doesn't matter. You cannot live I mean, yeah, you can live off grid. Are you living as a member of society? Then no, you are a hermit, and amazing if it works for you. I think some of those people, or most of those people living off grid, are happy with their lives. But if we're now talking about being a member of the society and participating in the society, we need what Nietzsche and Maslow are talking about. Again, I'm not trying to say that they are talking about the exact same thing, but both are talking about a new kind of human being. And let me just repeat it. We need to so the job of trying to make ourselves over into people who don't need to staticize the world, who don't need to freeze it and to make it stable, because we cannot. The point is that we cannot. So by us adopting the attitude of wanting to stop it, then we cannot handle what's to come. Oh, this is kind of heavy. This ended up being heavy, but it was prompted by David, if I'm correct, the question about our relationship with, is now this part of our human condition and what it means to be human, our digital, this digital predicament. And I believe this is now we need to continue building on what these people were talking about. We need to continue building on this, and we need to say, let's acknowledge all the dangers of the digital world, of the digital age, but we cannot be amongst those who are glorifying the past, because we are not returning to the past. The only way, for better or for worse, the only way for us not to be digital human beings is for there to be some kind of catastrophe that sets us back a millennia. Is that what we want? Is that what we want? For everything to collapse so that we can start over? There are people who wish for that. There is a philosophical stance of accelerationism. Let's speed up everything, and it's probably going to fall apart. So then we have a chance to start over. I understand to a certain extent how a person can come to that conclusion, but I'm not a fan of accelerationism. And since there is no going back, let's see how we can be genuine, full, authentic human beings and really human beings in the digital world. Without wanting to stop the movement of history. I don't know if this was a if this was a weird rant. If this was a weird rant that it kind of went too far, I'm not sure. David saying, but we could also see this as a good thing for humanity, just like the normal process of self-improvement, which is never ending. This digital revolution could be the start of a more conscious, or more properly, more necessary process of a species self-improvement, which could also be never ending. David, you're right. The only thing, I'm not sure if I'm challenging you here, because I don't know what your stances are. And listen, this is on me. Maybe I'm wrong. What you laid out makes perfect sense. It's only, for example, when I'm having an interaction with someone and when I express my disapproval of things such as, the transhumanistic idea or ideas. So transhumanists, are about us transcending being human, merging with technology, and they are full-on proponents of immortality by the way of uploading your consciousness to some digital cloud. I'm an opponent of that idea. I don't have the best argument for it, because I understand you can, you can make the case that that's, next step, that can be the next step in evolution. I'm an opponent of that idea. So that's where I kind of draw the line and say, yeah, all of this technical advancement can be part of our evolution, but how do we draw the line where, between human and not being fully human anymore? I'm certainly, way smarter people than me cannot make a strong argument for where to draw the line. But as a somewhat of an existentialist, I don't want that sterile, because then, by fully merging with technology, I don't want that sterile existence. Again, David, agreeing with what you're laying out here, that we don't know, the positive, all of the positives that this all of this can bring. I just am careful when drawing a, or not drawing a parallel, but putting a sign of equality between technological advancement and human evolution, because that's, easily then goes in the direction of transhumanism, and I'm no supporter of transhumanism. Diego Solis, beautiful name, I have to say, like the combination of two, like a heartbreaker, character from a book that all the women fall for him. On a side note, are you self-taught, or did you go to university to learn all you have? Self-taught. I have considered going back to university multiple times in the last couple of years, but I'm just, every time I seriously consider it, I'm just discouraged because of the institutions that are failing people, So I genuinely, multiple points, I had serious intention of going back to university, but yeah, self-taught. So yeah, friends, that's kind of we ended up once again existential questions. Srini's book reviews previously said, I'm just fascinated by the fact that people across the world are connecting online and discussing deeply profound and personal things. Exactly, that's beautiful thing to be aware of and be reminded of. Before, I'm now browsing through some of the messages. Before, Necromantis said a similar struggle that became part of the human condition could be diet. Humans from a different time couldn't even fathom that we would get to the point where we struggle with food overconsumption. Yeah, that's humans from a different time couldn't even be able to comprehend that there is such thing as Cheetos pizza, right? Insane. Or that there is such thing as, barbecue flavored ice cream. On a serious note, I sometimes think about this when thinkers like Steven Pinker, it was Steven Pinker, when he presents the, when he's trying to say this is the best point in history, and I'm not trying to make it the worst point in history by any means. I think it's our point in history, and that's all that it matters. It's our point in history. So what is our task? Now we discussed one of our tasks, to become a human being who can thrive in the face of rapidly changing world. But Steven Pinker and similar intellectuals who want to make the case that this is the best point in history. And then, what is one of the arguments? Or I will give you two arguments. So bear in mind, this is for them argument for why this is the best time in history. More people die from overeating. Sorry. Let me rephrase it. More people die from overeating and eating too much than people die of starvation, and more people die of suicide than they do in wars. These are arguments for this being the best time in history, because they point to the prosperity and the safety. So prosperity in terms of, we have humans who eat so much, we have so many humans who have so much food that we have more people dying from eating too much than we have people dying from starvation. And then the second one is, we live in the safest times, because more people die from killing themselves than we have people die in wars. This is, as I'm saying this, I cannot believe how someone can put this out, and this can be considered one of the greatest living intellectuals, and selling millions of copies of books, and this can be a valid argument to say this is the best time ever. Yeah, I like, can we reverse it? Like, there are people still dying from starvation, but we have so many people dying from eating too much. Is that the case for this being best time in history? Or we have more people deciding that life is not worth living, then we have people dying of conflict. I'm not sure I'm not sure that can be an argument for this being the best time ever, the best point in history. Yeah. That's something that I think about quite often, I can tell you. So the diet thing is yeah, our ancestors wouldn't be able to fathom this. And if I can say, of course, the biology plays part in it. The what this hyper palatable food, if that's proper expression, does to us. So purely biologically speaking, we are facing again so many of these temptations, and we are still wired like our ancestors. So there are so many biological evolutionary reasons why people can be prone to overeating. But let's also acknowledge once again the psychological / existential psychological aspect of this. Why do so many people have the need to overeat? Why do so many people have the psychological need to overeat and to have it as a coping mechanism? Let's face it, it's another form of distraction. It's another form of distraction. I've been there, and I'm sure you've all been there, where after a difficult day, you just want to turn on your favorite show and eat your favorite guilty pleasure food. And I'm not now saying never do it. I'm not saying never do it. But there are people out there who live every day like that. They turn on their favorite show and they eat their favorite guilty pleasure food, their favorite hyper palatable food. Why? to forget how empty their life is. That's, that's not the evolutionary or biological side of our overeating. That's the existential side of our overeating, or existentialist side of our overeating, refusing to face the uncomfortable fact of the emptiness of life. And I'm not now saying inherent emptiness of life. I'm not making a claim that life is meaningless. I'm saying the modern individual whose life is empty and hasn't engaged in their life fully. Have you ever heard Jordan Peterson's criticism of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? No, I haven't. That's something interesting. I would be curious to check it out. Definitely. By the way, that's something really interesting for me. By the way, I will just say, interesting fact that I like to bring up. Maslow never drew the pyramid. Maslow never drew it. And how do you learn about Maslow hierarchy of needs? You learn about that pyramid, and that's all you know. No, I'm not saying now you personally, Nathan. I'm saying, I'm like speaking to everyone. Pretty much all that we learn about Maslow and all that most of us know about Maslow is hierarchy of needs is presented through that pyramid. He never drew the pyramid. Someone else did, and that kind of got adopted. Why pyramid doesn't make sense when you learn about Maslow's psychology and philosophy, because he did very much engage in philosophical thinking in later stages of his career. Pyramid doesn't make sense because those needs and those different types of needs are in constant interplay. So life isn't, and this is now a great segue or connection with human. Yeah, human. I don't know if I previously called you human or human. Now I'm figuring out. Wow, I'm sometimes slow. Human, like it's human, right? Okay. Sorry for being slow. He has to make a distinction between true want for growth and the superficial game of stacking up numbers, showing off, following social media trends. Of course, distinction is there. So I want to kind of connect the two. If you look at hierarchy of needs and self-actualization also through that pyramid, then it's about leveling up. Okay, I have passed or beaten this level. I don't know what's the proper gaming expression. I've beaten this level. Okay, time to be the next level. And okay, I'm leveling up. And one day, I'm there. Self-actualization. I have reached it. That's not self-actualization for Maslow, and that's not the hierarchy of needs for Maslow. That's the concept of hierarchy. Kind of, it's easy to extract the idea of a pyramid from it, somewhat easy, but for Maslow, the needs are in constant interplay with each other, and self-actualization is a movement, constant movement. It's not a point to reach, so it's not a pyramid, and it's the basic facts of life that when you look at that hierarchy of needs, when you look at it and you think about it, no, life doesn't work that way. That you go, one level and then the next one and then the next one. You can, if you look at that, you can recognize how in real life those needs are in constant interplay. So what seems like the top of pyramid, you can be there. That can be your dominant need one day, and the next day, life can present you with a situation where you are back seemingly at the bottom of the pyramid. But you're not at the bottom of the pyramid, because there is no pyramid. They're in constant interplay with each other. Those types of needs. It's just about what's the dominant set of needs at this point in life. And this point at this point in life, and this point in life can mean this day or this year. There's no telling. But again, constant interplay and in constant movement. So that's on the hierarchy of needs. Some of my input, just to bring some clarity to the idea. And for human, how can we not fall into the second trap of superficial game of self-improvement and growth, for the sake of stacking up numbers, showing off, following social media trends? I'm not going to say it's easy to resist all temptations, because temptations are there, and we are human. We can be. It's nice to admit that we can be weak, and we can find it difficult to resist temptations. But I think it's for all of us here somewhat easy to recognize the difference. So hopefully this is somewhat clear. We can recognize the difference between genuine pursuit of growth and self-improvement game of trying to level up so that we can stand out. We can recognize the difference between the two, although it's not always easy to resist temptation. One thing that has helped me immensely is contemplating my mortality. And here it is, just a second. Memento mori. If you take it seriously, and for all of you here, I will wrap up the live with this idea, with this recommendation. If you take 5 minutes of silence to seriously contemplate the fact that you're going to die one day, and that day you have no idea when it's going to come. If you seriously contemplate that fact and entertain the idea that the moment of your end will come sooner than you want or expect or are ready for it, and then you think, what are the things that I would agonize over not doing more, or not even attempting to do? And what are the things that I would seriously say, like, wow, I wasted my life thinking about that. I wasted my life pursuing that goal. Or maybe what are the goals that you have right now that you still haven't achieved? Think about this. What are the goals that you have right now that you still haven't achieved, that if you knew your time has come, you would feel okay? I can tell you right now, if I knew that I'm going to die tomorrow, I would feel okay for never squatting twice my body weight. Right now, I would really want, during my lifetime to achieve that goal, to squat twice my body weight. Like, how cool. I would, and how cool also that I can then flex online and say, look at me squatting twice my body weight, but also being lean or whatever. Just one example. I would love to reach 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. How cool would that be? How cool. That would be amazing. But if I knew that I'm going to die tomorrow, I wouldn't stress over YouTube. I would agonize over not finishing a fiction story that I want to write. So maybe that's then, part of my personal growth, taking writing even more seriously. Although I'm taking it seriously, taking it even more seriously. I wouldn't, if I knew that I'm going, and I'm telling you this as things that I have seriously contemplated. I wouldn't stress about not reading Kant or Hegel, or even not reading all of the ancient classics. Not reading Aristotle. I really wouldn't. So is it then part of my genuine personal growth to become the most educated guy ever who has read all the great books of philosophy? Not for me. I would really ask every one of you to take at least 5 minutes. Take at least 5 minutes to seriously consider the fact that you're going to die, and seriously consider what are the things that you're okay with not accomplishing, and what are the things that, if you knew you're going to die soon, you would agonize over not pursuing with more intensity, more effort, more commitment. And that's, I think, a great way to make a distinction between what is genuine personal growth and what is just playing the leveling up game. So that's it. Maybe this is a good note to end it on. Memento mori. And it kind of, I think, fits into everything. Memento mori, remember that you will die. So you have to answer that call to adventure. You have to embark on your hero journey. Memento mori, maybe also what we spoke about, the human condition, is still a sign that you are a human. Rollo May said that the fact of my mortality is what makes my life real, is one of the things that makes my life real and asks me to commit to my life. And memento mori, when it comes to making a distinction between personal growth, genuine personal growth, and superficial self-improvement. So that's it. That's what I leave you with. Memento mori, and we'll repeat this really soon. Thank you all. 2 hours 37 minutes. This was a good one. Last time was 3 hours, so we are racking up some serious numbers here. Thank you all. Genuine privilege, blessing. Thank you, Diego. Thank you all again. Privilege and blessing to be able to have this interaction with you, and thank you for all your time and support and attention. And once again, we'll be talking to you soon.